What's going on, everybody? This your boy, Brandon Scott. We are here for another installment of Kickback Conversations. We are excited today. We have a wonderful guest who's joining us. She is a DC native. Chocolate City's in the building. We're so happy to have her. Her name is Dr. Canary. She is a doctor dealing with all kind of different things. Tell us a little bit more about what you do.
Hey guys, I'm Dr. Canary. That's what I go by on Instagram. Also Dr. Fuller, as my patients know me. I am a certified sex therapist as well as a medical doctor. I specialize in psychiatry. So with my current 9-to-5 job, I work with individuals that have severe mental illness. Anywhere from schizophrenics to bipolar. I have a couple murderers that I work with. Depression, anxiety, PTSD, anything within that realm, I work with.
So she is well qualified to talk about what we're going to talk about today. She's seen a little bit of it all, and I'm so happy to have her with us and to join us today. And
Thank
to bring
you so
some.
much for having me.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So we're just excited. She's going to bring some wisdom, some insight into a very serious topic that a lot of my clients have hit me up over the years. And I don't have all the answers, but many people are going through these things, and we wanted to make sure that we just addressed it head on and give people information how they can do it. So today's topic is past sexual trauma and dating. You know, as you guys know on the pod, we talk a lot about dating and relationships and how to navigate through all those different things. And today, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about what are some of those different things. So the first question out the box is just kind of like the lay the land is, you know, what that looks like. And I'll kind of give a scenario, just a personal scenario, so you guys don't feel alone. Like I haven't gone through some of these things as well. I remember dating someone who was a sexual assault survivor and walking in the mall with her, very innocently walking in the mall, and we were holding, I reached to hold her hand, and she held it for like 10 seconds and then pushed it away. And I was like, man, she's going to just embarrass me out here in these streets. Like, what's going on? So, and she's like, I don't like PDA. I don't like PDA. And she kind of had this like huge reaction. And I was like, man, what's going on? And the thing that, you know, so I didn't really pay any mind. I was like, maybe she's having a tough day or whatever. I remember about 4 or 5 days later, she called me and she said, Brandon, I'm really, really sorry. I said, sorry about what? She said, how I pushed your hand away when we were, you know, you wanted to hold my hand in the mall. She said, because that triggered something, you know, from the way that you touched my hand, it triggered something the way that the person who sexually assaulted me touched me. And I was like, wow, I had no idea. So I'm kind of like, whoa, you know. And from that point forward, it was very, very tough in our relationship for me to understand how to navigate that. You know, I'm like, can I hug you like this way? Or can I kiss you? Like, I don't know. Like, you know, all those different things. So Dr. Canary, let's talk a little bit about it. What do you feel, you know, with the person who is a sexual assault survivor, when's a good time first to bring that up to the person they're dating?
So the thing is you can't really, so if you're walking down the street or even like you've been in a relationship, how can you tell that someone has been sexually assaulted?
Right.
Generally, you can't until you get in a relationship with them and you start to build that trust. So a lot of sexual assault survivors, we don't like to use the word victims. We like to use the word survivors because they're overcoming this obstacle. They have PTSD. And PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. And when people think of that term, they more so think of, oh, veterans.
Right.
But no, this pandemic could have caused people PTSD. Yeah. And a lot of sexual assault survivors, they have PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yes.
And what PTSD is, it's like a hidden wound. It's inside of a person that, you know, you can't hear it, you can't see it, you can't feel it, but they're feeling all those things within. Right. So it's an anxiety disorder, and it's a reaction to something physical or something, emotional, mental distress, something that has happened, a traumatic event.
Yeah.
So a lot of patients that I have that are experiencing the PTSD, their partners ask that same question, like, how do we know that they're experiencing PTSD?
Okay.
Or how do we know that they're experiencing, flashbacks from their sexual assault?
Right.
And some clues, everyone is completely different. Let me tell you, because it depends when it happened in their life. Sometimes it happened when they were really, really young, or maybe it happened when they were in college or a young adult. So there are a couple of clues. Like your first clue was when she kind of pulled her hand away.
Right.
Because that's a little abnormal. So you're kind of like, wait, I know she likes me, but why did she pull her hand away like that?
Exactly.
So
we were having a lovely day. Like, you know what I mean? In the mall, I think I just got her this
right,
little we had
So if you touch them, that could be a trigger, because with
Okay.
sexual assault, survivors, they've been touched in some inappropriate manner. A lot of times they'll tend to isolate themselves.
Okay.
So they're pushing people away. Like, you're trying to build a relationship with them, you're trying to get to know them, and they prefer not to be around other people typically, especially new people when building a relationship. So a lot of avoidance, a lot of isolations. Sometimes they'll have this feeling of helplessness, where they feel like there is no recovery from the issue. They feel as though even therapy, nobody can help them.
Wow.
Like, they can't help themselves and nobody else can help them. And then there's a bit of increase of anxiety. So you might be out in a public place, like, even if like when you touched her, she might have felt like a sense of panic, like, oh my God, like, why are you touching me? Or the feelings that go with touch and feel might have overwhelmed her a little bit. So a lot of times you have to watch out for that. They can tend to have a bit of anxiety.
Okay.
And then sometimes simple solutions to problems, they can have sometimes difficulty finding resolution to those problems.
Okay. So in that same vein, you hit on a lot of key points and key takeaways. What would you recommend that person's game plan? Because for me in dating, I always say you have to have a game plan.
Absolutely.
What would we say that your game plan is as a sexual assault survivor before they're starting to date? What are some of the key things that they can do to prepare themselves for that?
I'm going to be honest. There's really nothing you can do, I would say, before the relationship to prepare, because you're going into this not knowing at first. A lot of people that deal with PTSD or deal with some sort of sexual assault, you're not going to see it right away. They're putting on a mask. They're not just like, hi, my name is so-and-so, and, I've been sexually assaulted.
Right.
So it does make it a little bit harder on both ends. But once you establish a rapport with them and a friendship with them, that's typically when they let it out.
Gotcha.
And it's going to be a bit heavy for the other person receiving it. Like, let's say it was you in this situation, you're going to be like taken aback a bit. It's going to feel, it's going to be heavy. It's definitely going to be heavy. So what I always tell partners is, one, do not try to fix your partner and what they're experiencing. The main important thing is to hear their story with understanding, is to listen. Sometimes we mean well by trying to fix our quote unquote partner, but in a situation like this, it's not something that you can fix. It's really something that they have to go through. And you, as their partner, are along for the journey. And you're there supporting them. You're there being their cheerleader. You're there encouraging them. You're there giving them words of wisdom. You're there helping them along their path of healing, because this has to be the path that they're going to take along. So that's one. Two, don't take it personally, which is very, very hard for people to do. Because as human beings, we naturally, we take everything to heart, especially when we care about a person. But you have to remember that your partner is working through something very difficult. And sometimes people have been traumatized to the point where they're emotionally distant. So you have to, once again, you have to practice self-awareness, and you have to also remember that this is a journey that they're going through. So it's going to take a lot of patience. And there are going to be times that they're going to shut down completely, and they're not going to want to let you in. And you're going to be like, I'm trying to help you. And it can be frustrating. It can be very frustrating. The third thing was, don't make assumptions. Sometimes, like I said, we always mean well with our partners. We want the best for them. But I think sometimes we assume, like, okay, well, if you're trying to heal, why aren't you doing this? Or if you're trying to heal, like in your case, you could have been like, well, I wasn't the person that did this to you. So why are you pulling your hand away from me? You
Right.
know what I'm saying?
I don't even know, man. I only know main man, you know? Right, right.
Exactly. And that's where that communication piece comes in.
Right.
It's so important to communicate with your partner about what they would like, and also like what makes them comfortable.
Okay. Wow, great takeaways. Because I feel that a lot of times, you know, we have this mentality, you know, especially as men, where we want to fix it. We want to do something.
Absolutely.
You know, you're like, oh, I want to do something to help. Oh, where's he at? You know, with all those kind of different things. And I think, you know, and when it's something that we don't know a lot about, or we haven't personally experienced, sometimes we don't know how to navigate it, and we're like, well, we're kind of like, you know, in a rudderless ship. I think sometimes, you know, especially that, like to your point, if somebody is something they've had a long time ago, or these things may not, you know, have come to the surface before, you know, and that was and me dating that one young lady, you know, there was no other triggers. There was nothing happened before that would allow me to know that, you know,
and that's how it typically is.
Yeah.
It really takes an instant. And that's what I was saying, you know, I know people want to prepare, but you almost can't prepare until you're put in that situation, because every person is going to be a little bit different with what they're dealing with. Whether it's sexual assault, or whether it's a different type of PTSD, or whether it's cyberbullying, you know, you just never know people's experiences. But once you're in it and they open up to you, just also do your research. There's books. But
no, but and actually I'm gonna swerve a little bit too, because I feel like it's so funny. I feel as a black men, we have a lot of PTSD.
Absolutely.
Just based on living.
PTSD within itself.
Yes. You know, we talk about that all the time in dating, you know, how a guy, when he goes to a restaurant with you, he has to see the door, you know, he has to be in that part of the booth to see the door, or
even went to the movie theaters. Like, it's crazy. And that's why I tell my patients, I'm like, even if they haven't experienced sexual assault, life in itself is trauma. Everyone has experienced trauma in some type of realm. And the thing is how you navigate through that trauma, how you allow it to affect you, and how you overcome it. Because like I tell my patients, you know, you can overcome the worst of the worst. I've heard crazy stories. I've probably heard everything that there is to hear by now. But how people tend to overcome, and what they do to overcome, by, you know, doing their research, understanding their emotions, going to therapy, communicating with their loved ones about what they're going through, and just really being open and honest.
So after they're in this person who's a sexual assault survivor is in, and let me just let the audience know, this is something very personal to me. I have women in my family, women who are close friends to me, who are sexual assault survivors, and just hearing their stories and being there for them, I wanted to be a man to speak out on some of these things, because I feel like sometimes we need to do a better job of that as men.
Yes, we need more of that. We need more of that.
So with that being said, so as this person is navigating and entering into dating this person, when do you feel like is the right time to bring this up and kind of share their story? Is there a time that is better than most?
So I wouldn't say there's a time that's better than most. A lot of what I tell my clients is, I typically tell them, if they're the one that the sexual assault has happened to, and they're like, hey, you know, I just entered a new relationship, because they're nervous too. You guys got to remember that they also are intimidated by the situation a lot of times, or they don't want you to make them feel like a victim, or they don't want you to kind of treat them like a baby, or look at them differently. So you also have to think from their perspective as well. So what I always tell them, especially when they're entering a new relationship, or I've had people that have kept the secret for like a whole year, and they were a year in, and they were like, hey, you know, I know that I need to tell them soon, because I'm starting to, little things are starting to happen, and it's because of what happened in the past, you know, like trust issues and different things like that. And what I always tell them is you have to find the right time for yourself. It is not my job to tell you as an individual, oh, you need to tell them the first 6 months of dating. No, because you might not feel comfortable. So I always tell them now, also, yes, you have to feel comfortable when you tell your partner, but you also need to think about your partner's feelings.
Mm.
And is this something that your partner is going to want to, I don't want to say deal with, but embark on that journey with you?
Okay.
Because it is a journey. And
Yeah.
essentially, both parties have to think about, if we're in a relationship, we have to think about the best interests of both of ourselves.
Absolutely.
Are there children involved? Yeah. So have they experienced trauma themselves? So I always tell them, think about other circumstances. Don't just think about yourself. Think about, are there children involved? Your partner have children? Do you have children? Also think about, does your partner going through severe trauma? So it's now the right time to tell them when they're kind of going through therapy and working through themselves. So I always tell them, when you're going to tell them, think of a best time where you feel comfortable, and that you also know that your partner is open and willing to listen to what you have to say.
And I think that's a key point, because I found out just talking to some folks that many times they don't even feel comfortable sharing it with their family, So, going back to you saying not taking it personal, that guy, they're dating. Hey, man, they might not have shared this with their mom or their dad or certain people, or maybe they did share it and the person didn't believe them, for whatever reason. So I think, that's a thing that we have to do a better job of, not taking it personal and not putting it all on ourselves, and looking at it as an opportunity, opportunity. Maybe, I believe in God, and I believe sometimes it may be your destiny to be with that person, and you're the person that they needed to be the support system at that key time. So,
and also, a lot of times, you might need therapy as well. And that's what I always tell the partners, like, just be prepared when you take on that heavy burden of I don't think people realize that when you hear somebody else's traumatic story, how it can impact you.
Yes.
And the emotions because you love this person. So the emotions that you're going to have, frustration, anger, helplessness, and you might end up needing therapy because there might be some other unresolved issues that end up coming out from your own personal trauma, or just the frustration of not being able to, quote unquote, fix your partner and fix the situation that they're in.
So what type of infrastructure do you feel like needs to be created within that relationship that enables just a healthy understanding or of that person and those kind of things? Because I want to talk about triggers, right? So I think a lot of times we don't know what triggers certain people, and with this population of people who are sexual assault survivors, what are some of the most common triggers that you've seen, you've noticed, and that we could, give our audience and let them know, hey, these are some of the things you might want to look out for and just be more careful about?
I think with a lot, and remember, this is going to be completely different. Everyone kind of deals with it, PTSD and sexual assault, on, how they process and deal with it. But I would say with most of them, touch is a huge trigger. Typically. So if you notice that, because by human nature, we typically like touch, especially when we like the individual. We like to be hugged. Everyone likes some form of intimacy. But they typically lack intimacy. They typically will have a low libido, which is a sex drive. A lot of times they won't want that intimacy. So that touch, that feel, those hugs, especially cuddling, anything long term. Now, a hug is really quick, but cuddling, that's typically not good for them.
You can cuddle for a minute. You can cuddle for a minute, right?
Like you said, and the holding the hands, typically, that doesn't really work too well for them. And depending on since we're just specifying usually sexual assault, then the intimacy sex part tends to be a bit of an issue.
Got it.
Now, I have seen some sexual assault survivors where they overcompensate, so their sex drive is really, really high, and it's more on the promiscuous line. But for a lot of them, it's they don't want to engage in any sexual activity. And even kissing to them can be a little bit overwhelming. Other things to look out for is, like I said, depending on what happened to them, even being in large crowds of people that they don't know. That social anxiety can sometimes really overwhelm them.
It can be something. So what are some of the things that the partner who is is trying to navigate this with them? Do you recommend them going to therapy with them? for certain sessions? Is that something you
Mhm.
recommend, or just keeping everything more on an individual basis?
So first, it needs to be on an individual basis.
Okay.
Now, if you all are married, then I do say eventually, typically, we will then incorporate the partner. But
Okay.
for a while, depending on how, because everyone progresses in therapy a little bit different.
Yeah.
So depending on how they're progressing in therapy, then we might bring the partner in. But typically, for the first 6 months, they just need to do therapy by themselves. And then I always encourage the partners, go to therapy on your own,
Right.
get therapy on your own. And then we can do couples therapy and we
Yes.
can bring it together and figure out, because the intimacy tends to be a problem in these relationships. That's like the number one
Yeah.
among both of them. So then we can figure out how we can get back on the same accord with the intimacy, how we can get back on the same
Yeah.
accord with the children or family members, how we
Yeah.
explain this to the family, how we explain this maybe to the kids, because sometimes they'll have crying spells, and kids, they don't understand depression.
No.
They don't
Yeah.
quite understand things like that. So just explaining it to the family members, and then if medication needs to be involved, taking that next step.
And I just want to give a special shout out real quick. As a Black man, I have seen a therapist through the years, and it's something that's been such a blessing for me in so many
Yes.
different ways. And one of the things I used to do, I used to take so much on myself, and everybody's talking to me, and I don't have anywhere to put it, So I'm like, man, I got all this stuff building up, and I think that's what the thing that I just want to give every brother watching, everybody to listening, like, listen, you know, seek therapy. I think that you'll see a difference in you. I know the first time I ever went, I felt like it was like 100,000 tons lifted off my shoulders. I just walked out of that thing free. You know what I mean? And I think,
Yes.
it was something that was needed. So I think that sometimes even the traumas of life, we don't realize how much those things kind of impact
Absolutely.
us, right? So
Yep.
I just want to give a special shout out from your boy that therapy definitely works, and it's something that is really good. We have people, even in hip hop, I know Charlamagne the God just put a book out not too long ago
Yes,
talking
he's
about
been
that.
big into mental illness. Shout out to Charlamagne the
Yeah,
God.
yeah. So yeah, I just think that that's something that we want to navigate. Now, when it comes to the next step of dating this person, you're in a relationship for a while, are there some things that some best bets and practices when it comes to being a sexual assault survivor? Like some of the things now you're in a relationship, because I feel like the dating process is you're feeling somebody out, right? You're getting to know
Right.
them and that kind of stuff. But in sustaining a relationship and taking those next steps, whether, like I said, be having kids or
Mhm.
just all those different next steps that people have once they get in a relationship or get married. What are some of those things that we need to know how to navigate better?
So once they went through, and this is already once they went through therapy and everything, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
So depending on how long, people need therapy for X amount of time. Some
Yeah.
people, they feel fine in a year, some people 2 years, some people it's a lifetime of work, and that's
Yeah.
okay. I think that once you're in a relationship, they've been in therapy for a while, they're starting to, feel the healing process. Just remember that it's always going to be a journey.
Okay.
Always.
Okay.
It's always going to have to be a point of understanding. And I think that's the main thing, understanding someone's situation. Communication is key. Communication
Okay.
is like the number one thing
Right.
in therapy.
Right.
Communication.
Yes.
In any relationship, communication.
Effective, and I would say this effective communication. To take it one step
Absolutely.
further, because I feel like a lot of people talk at each other and they're communicating,
No.
but it's not
So
effective.
there's this, I don't know if you've ever did the love language quiz.
Oh, absolutely. I do it with all my clients.
Yeah.
I love it. Love
Yeah,
languages.
so
Yeah.
I do that with my clients too. And it's just a fun way to start them off on seeing how different, because
Yes.
your partner can communicate differently.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean just because your partner communicates one way and you communicate another way that that's bad.
Yep.
You all need to make sure in your effective communication that you're understanding where one another is coming from,
Yep.
and that we're reaching a common ground, because that's what happens when you're talking at each other and not with one another and being cohesive, because you can talk at each other all day and then you're getting nowhere, and then you're frustrated and you're upset with your partner and you go to bed angry, which I tell my patients, do not go to bed angry. Talk about everything you have to do before you go to bed, because it's so important not to go to bed angry with one another and wake up with that
Yeah.
animosity in the morning.
Right.
So yes,
And a good
effective
thing,
communication.
and a good thing about that, a good thing to navigate that, because I think we've heard that, like, don't go to bed angry, but some people are like, I'm still mad. You know, I always tell people, like, I think you should have a system or I guess again, a game plan on how you do that.
Absolutely.
So maybe
Yep.
it's like, yo, I know we're gonna agree to disagree tonight, but let's
Right.
talk about this again in the morning, or set a
Right.
certain time we can revisit it. So
Exactly.
you're not feeling like your feelings aren't being heard, you know.
Exactly. And then you making him go sleep in the other room.
Right, exactly. That couch not even that comfortable, you know what I mean?
Right. So on
So
this
yeah,
journey, I'm sorry. So they're gonna just continue to need to, practice that patience, practice that communication, practice that understanding,
okay.
and realize that there is hope.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Understanding and hope. We need that today, boy. I tell you, that's a message.
Yes. Yes.
A message of the moment. So, so I guess the other thing I want to talk about is just, with the sexual assault survivor, when it comes to friendships, I
Mhm.
feel like a lot of times I've heard from people they don't feel either supported or that their friends understand them. How do they navigate that? Because I think part of anything that anybody goes through, we need a support group. We need people in our corner
Absolutely.
that we can talk to, or just support us in any way they possibly can. So let's talk a little bit about how that village, I call it, to make it.
The village of support.
Yeah.
Well, I think that sometimes for friends and families, it can be difficult to
Okay.
support. Like they want to support, but when you haven't been through something and you don't understand the physical and the emotional impact,
Yeah.
it's a little bit hard for you to be like, okay, you're like, yes, I support them, I love them, but you don't really know what action to take. I always say
Mm,
there's solutions and there's actions, and
okay.
that's what people don't know how to get to.
Gotcha.
So people will support from afar, like, girl, I love you, praise you, but
Yeah.
then when it comes to that, finding a solution for the problem, or that sense of, oh gosh, what was the word I was looking for? That solution to the problem,
Uh-huh.
or the sense of like understanding where
Okay.
they're coming from,
Yeah.
that's where the waters get a little bit murky. And I think that for the survivor, it's always important to have that open conversation. So
Yes.
if something has happened to me and you're my friend and I feel like you're not being supportive, I know you're a good friend. Now there's some
Yeah.
people that aren't good friends and you need to eliminate from your life. But you know
Absolutely.
this
Yeah.
person is trying, they're putting forth the effort, then you have to have a conversation. And sometimes you have to tell people how to support you. And I
Absolutely.
know people don't like to do that, but if they haven't been through the same experience,
Hmm.
they don't know how to.
Yes.
And there are books out there, and I always recommend that if you have a friend, family member, loved one,
Hmm.
someone that you know that has been sexually assaulted, there are books out there
Okay.
that help you navigate different steps. So it helps you, you're never going to understand to a
Yeah.
point, but it helps you to look out for those triggers of when they're isolating themselves, when they're going through the depression, when they're
Okay.
feeling the helplessness. Just some of you'll kind of notice when you
Yeah.
notice your friend, you'll notice that something's off. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of sometimes friends are scared to be like, they don't want to meddle too much in your business.
Right.
But as a friend, I think it's really important to ask those deep questions like, hey, how are you doing? And not just
Yeah.
through text message. I'm saying pick up the phone,
Pick up the
call them,
phone.
where they can physically hear your voice,
Yes.
drive over there,
Yes.
spend time with them. Sometimes you're going to have to force them out the house a little bit,
Right.
to make sure that you're really giving that support that they need, because they need action. That's what they need. They need action.
Ladies, if you ever seen your girl at a brunch and like so many brunches, reach out to her, okay?
Exactly.
So I think
Exactly.
and it's one of my favorite R&B songs, classic. What I need is understanding. We need more
Yes.
understanding right now. So I
Hey,
think
that's my song too.
remember that
It's
song, right? Right,
understanding.
to
I can't sing,
communicate,
but I know
right?
that song.
So I just feel talking. I think we talk about sexual assault survivors a lot of times, and we look at it from a lot of women, especially have. I mean, I think the studies have shown, women maybe at a higher rate, I don't know, have been survivors of this. But I feel
I don't
maybe,
feel like that's true.
well,
I feel like it's just underreported in men.
that's my point. That's why I'm going with it. I feel
Mhm.
like a lot of times men have gone through those things, but we just don't talk about it. We put it deep down inside, and I talked to men who have had that. I talked to one gentleman who told me, he wanted to talk to his wife about it, you know, and he never felt comfortable talking about it. And it was affecting their intimacy. It was affecting a lot of other things that she was just frustrated with him on. But he didn't feel like he could share that with her because he felt like it would make him weak or,
Yeah.
you know, all those different things. So just
Yes.
talk a little bit about that, you know, from the, you know, how males, you know, I think it really is underreported, but how males.
Absolutely. So yeah, sexual assault amongst males, I definitely feel like is underreported because if you look at our society, and I'm talking about just in America, even across the country, internationally, males are put on this pedestal.
Yeah.
Like there are certain qualifications to be a male.
Yes.
And I think that especially in the Black community with mental illness, there being this stigma around the mental illness. It's even worse, I feel like, for Black males.
Yeah.
They don't want to talk about it because, like you said, they feel this sense of weakness or I'm not a man, regardless if it's happened with another male or a female.
Correct.
Because 75% of my patients are Black males.
Right.
And what I've realized is a lot of them have been sexually abused or some sort of sexual trauma that happened to them. And it was actually by another female. But when you have, let's say you're a 10-year-old male, and you know, at 10 years old, most 10-year-olds are not sexually active.
Right.
You know, they're still, that's around the point where they're figuring out, you know, things that they like down there, stuff like that. But then you have this grown woman that is making you feel good, and then you have this mix of emotions.
Yeah.
Because even the rapper, and I hate to bring this up, but it bothered me. The rapper Boosie.
Oh no,
Little Boosie. That?
Yeah,
that was a mess. And I'm actually almost kind of glad that he said that because it made people realize like this is what's going on.
Yes.
Because I had already heard of things like that. Where, oh, I'm gonna make you a man, so I'm gonna make sure that you know this woman does sexual acts on you to make sure you know you don't go down another path.
Right.
And what you're really doing though, one, that's molestation.
Yeah.
That is sexual assault. But you're actually giving that child PTSD because if a teenager is ready for a sexual experience, he will seek it on his own.
Yes.
With someone that is like-minded, with someone that's probably around the same age. Because in America, kids are having sex at 16, 17, but in middle school, they're already exploring other things. Yeah.
They go into the prom later on and having actual sex, but before that, there's a lot of it. And to that point, I feel like there's a culture too of fathers. And I was just having a conversation recently about that with someone. I said, you know, as fathers have a responsibility to make sure that they parent equally. In the sense of when your daughter, that's my princess, no, but she can't go out, she can't date until she's 39, right? But when it comes to your son, if he comes home and he's had sex at 17, oh, that's my boy. Oh, I see you, go get him, man. You know, and it's one of those things that, and we don't, and I think because of that, and I'm gonna shout out my nephews real quick. I always told them when they were little kids, I say, look, you ain't having no 2, 3, 4 girlfriends. The way that we do in our family, you got one, bro. That's it. You know,
good.
You know, and I feel like what happens is we tell the people, oh yeah, you know, look at little man, he got 2, 3 girlfriends. We're training young men how to have bad behavior. You know what I mean? And then when they go out here and you know, the sisters are complaining at brunch because the man can't be faithful to her. He was taught that that behavior was endorsed at a very young age.
And you see mothers do it too. You see, because at that young, they're not thinking that they're conditioning the mind. Yeah. But what parents are failing to, or just anyone in general failing to realize is at that young age, even 4 or 5, you're already conditioning them to think it's okay to be with that many women.
Absolutely.
And so I say to fathers, I say, you know, if you have expectations for your 16, 17-year-old daughter, those same expectations should be put on your son. Yes. Because guess what? Your daughter is going to grow up, and then you expect your son to be with 2 or 3 women. Well, then what do you think is going to happen to your daughter when she's trying to date?
Absolutely.
Somebody else expects, you see what I'm saying? So it's like
that's her new normal, you know? Yeah. So yeah, I think we have a responsibility with that. So I wanna man, so many great things. And I know we don't have a lot of time, but like I wanna just kind of get out of here on this. What are some of the things that you think people who are watching, people who are listening, can, if they know somebody in their life who is a sexual assault survivor, what's a couple of ways that they can reach out to that person or support that person in some kind of way? And maybe they've never felt comfortable with it. Maybe it's somebody
Right.
that they are in a book club with, or they know in passing or whatever, but might have shared that with them, and they kind of were like, okay, all right, and that was it.
Right. Because
You
they
know,
didn't know how to.
they didn't know how to approach it. So what are some of the things that you can do that we can, because I just want to make sure that we are progressively helping and supporting those people who may not feel, who feel like maybe they're going through this alone,
Right.
going through this alone. What are some of the things that we can do?
So if you are, wanting to support someone that has been through, it has, had an incident with sexual assault, or, they have PTSD, I think the main important thing is you have to realize, one, it's not about how you feel about the situation. It's about how they feel about the situation.
Okay.
So a lot of times we get in our own head like, oh, it's none of my business, or I don't feel comfortable. But think how they feel. So the first step, like I say, is take action.
Yeah.
If you know someone, do something about it. You just speaking to them, texting them, speaking to them every now and then is not really going to help them.
Yes.
Continuously check on that person. And I mean, pick up the phone, call them, ask them how they're doing. And remember, they're going to push away a lot of the time. That's just their defense mechanism.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, something just fell on my table. Sorry.
It's okay.
Continuously to be proactive. So continue to call them, continue to ask them if they want to hang out, even if it's just a walk, to the park, go to the bookstore, whatever that they're interested in doing, ask them if they want to do those things. Because a lot of times people that are sexual assault survivors, they want to open up to people. They don't know how. And especially with men, if you notice, like you mentioned that gentleman that's married, him and his wife, I'm sure she probably in the back of her mind is like, okay, something's not right here.
Right.
Because most men that are young, men never lose their sex drive. Even 65-year-old men, they're still trying to have sex. So if you
we know that from online dating, because a lot of my clients say, y'all 65-year-old men hit them up, and they 35. They don't want to date you, bro.
So my thing is, we have to, I think sometimes we get so caught up in what we're doing. You have to look around you. There are signs out there. It's not normal for people to be depressed over 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Now, if somebody dies, of course, but if you notice that your friend, your family member, your loved one is being depressed more than 2 weeks, that is not normal.
Yeah.
If you notice that they're isolating themselves, that they're withdrawn, and let's say they're a bubbly person, they like going to brunch, and then all of a sudden they don't want to go to brunch, that's your sign right there to check on that individual. If it's a quick text message, I always say call them, because I think the art of calling someone is being lost. Everyone texts or, oh, I see your life on Instagram. No. Call them, actually pull up on them, knock on the door, whatever you have to do, whatever you feel comfortable doing, just to actually reach out there, to actually take some sort of action, some sort of initiative.
Yes.
And to the Black men, that have been sexually assaulted, and you are noticing, changes in your relationship, it's because you're not healed, and you haven't healed, and you're not gonna heal until you get therapy.
Right. And my brothers, my sisters, I want us to live our best life. So please seek therapy.
Absolutely.
Ask for referrals. I know one therapist that, I believe she can, help you out. She's right here. So, Doctor.
And even if I can't,
yes.
I know a lot of other therapists, because typically when you're seeking therapy, and this is the thing, I actually have a post on this that I recently, Therapy is for the Culture. I have this shirt. I should have actually wore that.
Yeah, Therapy for the Culture. I love it.
I have this shirt that says Therapy is for the Culture. That means it's for Black culture. It's for Black people too, because we are the main people that have this stigma against going to therapy. And the thing is, the first time you go to therapy, you're going to have a lot of questions. You're going to be nervous. Give that there. That's their job. It's their job to explain to you how the process works. It's their job to explain to you what they do as a therapist. Do not be scared to ask questions.
Yes.
This is your time to heal. Do not be scared. And if you have any questions, I have a post actually on my page about it, where I talk about the questions that you can ask. But it's just so important to find that healing, and to really allow yourselves to open up, and to realize that whatever happened to you is not your fault. Right. And it's okay to let people know that those things have happened, to help your healing process.
Man, I think That's a great final thought to put a cap on it today. I really do appreciate you being here. I hope that somebody watching is set free. I hope somebody is watching that feels encouraged. They have hope now, and you have access to tools that you can use to whatever stance you are, whether you be a friend and trying to support someone, whether you be a partner of somebody who has been a sexual assault survivor, or you are the person who is a sexual assault survivor. And all of those people who are sexual assault survivors, I just want to let you know we support you. We love you. We are here for you. And your strength is something that is amazing, because many of you have gone through all these different things that, for so long, and held on to that. And you still have been out here killing it, doing great things. And,
Right.
So
Yep.
we just wanted to, let you guys know that we're here for you. And I want to, again, stand up and say, other Black men, we have to step up and we have to support those people. Stop running away from the conversation, stop using avoidance and all these different things, and those kind of things. And
that toxic behavior.
Yeah. Like, no, I mean, we have to support one another, because we are all we got. So, so last but not least, how can people find you? How can people get in touch with you?
So guys, I'm on social media. I'm at Dr.Canary on Instagram. I also have my Mind Body Sex page, which is also on Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, because I'm a psychiatrist, that's another thing. When you're typically doing therapy for sexual trauma, stuff like that, you don't typically go to a psychiatrist first. I do have a couple of clients that I do my sex therapy and they have PTSD and stuff like that. But typically you'll go to like a mental health counselor first, or a psychologist, and then you have to get a referral to us because we prescribe medication. But I actually do a lot of holistic methods. Medication is the last thing I do. So if you're interested in getting in touch with me, I do try and answer my DMs as much as possible. I get a lot, so if it's a couple days, please bear with me, because I get a lot of DMs about counseling. Also, you can hit me up on my email, mindbodysexllc@gmail.com. And if I can't help you, if I'm not in your area, I promise I will give you resources. I'm very personal, down to earth. A lot of people think just because I'm a doctor, like, oh, she's too busy. No, I'm never too busy for anyone. I'm all about helping my community and my people. So if I can help you, I will do whatever I can, or I will lead you in the right direction to someone that can help you.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. We're definitely going to have you back. It's so many other things I want to talk to you about, So
I would love to come back.
Love it. So thank you guys again. Dr. Canary just dropped some wisdom and some knowledge to us, and we're better for it as a culture for it. So this is another installment of Kickback Conversations. Thank you so much, and peace. We'll see you soon.